All right, good morning and welcome to this month's edition of Arizona Farm Bureau's virtual ag tour. Today I'm so excited because we're going to be talking about something that I know you guys are seeing as you're driving around our state today, and that is cotton. Of course, Arizona is known for cotton. That's one of Arizona's 5 Cs. That's one of our very, very important agricultural commodities here. And so today we are going to learn all about Arizona cotton with one of our cotton farmers, Mr. Adam Hatley. And then we are going to follow that cotton from the field to the gin, to Yuma, Arizona, to the Yuko gin, and find out what happens with it there. So just a couple of reminders for today. We do have you guys all on mute, which means if you have a question, which we of course encourage, we would like for you to type that question in the question and answer box. And that way we will address those questions as appropriate as our cotton farmer, Adam Hatley, is speaking. And make it as smooth as possible. We will be showing videos throughout today's virtual ag tour. If for some reason you have an issue with the sound or anything on those, please double check your speakers because we think everything is good to go on our end, but you can always type a message into the question and answer if you are having an issue. All right, so hopefully here you guys can all see our PowerPoint here, and I'm going to switch us over now to our cotton farmer, Mr. Adam Hatley, and he is going to chat with you guys today, and we're going to find out where he farms, what he farms, and how it all works. Mr. Hatley, I have asked you to unmute, so you might have to accept that unmute before it will begin. All right, you are on.
John?
You are on. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm happy to be here this morning.
I see you are joining us from the cab of your truck.
I am. Yes, I am farming currently. We are picking cotton east of Scottsdale. And we got an early start this morning. We've been out here since 7 o'clock, and the machines are picking right now, and we're about halfway through our picking process this year. So we started a week ago, and we've picked about 450 acres so far, and we have a total of 950 acres to pick this year.
Wow. Now, when you say where you are, that's along the 101, is that correct?
That is correct. We farm on the Salt River Pima Maricopa Indian community.
Excellent. So outside your windows there, we're seeing pickers happening live. But to eliminate some of the distraction, I think we'll keep them here with our video unless we get a lot of questions that want to see exactly what it is that you're seeing out there. So, Mr. Hatley, if you can start with just talking a little bit about cotton, how it's planted, how it grows, the life cycle and stages, and how does it get from when you planted it to where you are today picking it?
Yeah, absolutely. So on the presentation, you see small cotton seedlings. So we start planting in March. March and April, we start putting seed in the ground and watering it up. And then what you see here, the plant is probably about 3 weeks old. So you have, after you plant the seed and you water it, you have germination, which is the seed sprouting and coming through the ground. Germination usually takes about 7 to 10 days for that seed to pop out of the ground. And then it starts to grow. And so the first 2 seeds that come out of the ground, or first 2 leaves, that come up are called cotyledon leaves. And those leaves look different than your true leaves. And then after about a week or so, then it starts developing true leaves, which is what you see here. And so at this stage, we're about 3 weeks along, and we've watered it at least once and hope for good sun and heat. Cotton really enjoys our warm weather. So the warmer it is, the better it is for it to grow. Now, we don't want excess heat like we had this year. that can tend to be a problem. But our normal heat is good for cotton to grow this time of year.
Excellent. And the way this cotton in these pictures is lined up, the irrigation type that's used is flood irrigation?
Yeah, that's correct. Good question. So you do see that the cotton is in rows, and we also call those furrows. And we water, flood irrigate in every other row. So that's why you see that. And we pull up our rows with an implement that's called a lister. And the tractor itself has a GPS unit in it so that we can make those rows straight. So we are connected with a satellite, and that satellite steers our tractor so that we produce and make straight rows to plant our cotton.
Excellent. Now we'll move on to the next picture here, because I know this is what a lot of people see when they're driving along the side of the road, but don't recognize it as cotton.
Yes, this is obviously a much more mature plant. So this is probably after 2 or 3 months, several irrigations of water, and has had fertilizer. We fertilize it often, and we take soil samples to see how much fertilizer is in the soil and how much is needed. And so at this point, we're keeping it wet, we're keeping it fed with fertilizer to allow that plant to grow. And what we wanted to do is to put a lot of that energy into producing the fruit. And the fruit is a cotton boll itself. So as it's growing and maturing, it is growing a plant, but we want that energy to produce more fruit than it does plant. And so what you'll see first as a fruit is what we call a square. And you'll see that in the next picture where it's a little square. Well, maybe it's one of the other ones. There you go. And you can see the bloom. And that bloom comes out of that square. And then as it starts to develop, the boll is developing underneath that bloom. And that bloom will eventually fall off. And you see the large green bolls. And those bolls develop. And as that boll develops, the seed inside of that boll is developing as well. And as that seed develops, and as it gets hard, then it will pop that boll open and expose the cotton lint, which is inside. So the seed is inside of the cotton lint, and that's where you get your fiber for your clothes and all the cotton items that we have in everyday life.
And they will learn in a little bit as we travel to the cotton gin that, of course, that seed is removed. Is there more than one seed in each cotton boll?
A very good question. Yes, there's multiple seeds. So a cotton boll typically has 4 what we call locks, and those locks are the lint itself. And you can kind of see in the picture the white cotton boll. You see the one I'm looking at. I can see 2 locks, but there are actually 4 locks, and each lock has about 6 to 7 seeds per lock. So you can times that by 4. But we also have varieties that produce 5 lock cotton bolls as well. So yes, so there are multiple seeds per cotton boll.
Awesome. Now, I know, especially this time of year, a lot of people see cotton fields looking like this. So
Yes.
what's about to happen with this field?
Yes, and that's the stage we're in now. So our cotton has developed, and it has produced its bolls. And then what we do when it's still green, we need to get those green leaves off. So we'll go in there and spray it with a product that will make those leaves drop off. And what we want to do is get all of the leaves off so we don't have all that trash in the lint. Because when the lint goes to the gin and ultimately the mill that produces our clothes, you don't want all that trash in there. So we spray it to allow those leaves to drop off and to dry it up. and then now it's ready to pick. So this is a process we're in now where those plants are ready for the cotton picker to come in and take it off the stalk.
Now, before we get into the picking that is about to occur, can you talk at all about, are there cotton varieties or are there GMOs with cotton, and what traits are they being given, or what benefit does that provide to you as a farmer or even to people as consumers?
Yes, good question. But I want to back up just a little bit now. We'll get to that question. So I mentioned earlier that we plant the seed in March and April. And so the growing season goes from that point till October, when we start drying it down to harvest. So it's a almost a full year season to get to this point. And so, yes, there are multiple varieties, and I this year grew 7 different varieties of cotton. But all the varieties I have do have genetically modified organisms in it, that traits that help the plant. There are traits that help it with drought resistance, so it can use less water. There are some that make it resistant to some herbicides, so that we can spray some herbicides over it that do not affect the cotton, but take out the weeds. And that's very helpful because years before GMO, we had to go in there a lot of times with cultivators throughout the year and just burned a lot of diesel and was roughing up the plant, running the tractor through there. And we don't have to do that anymore. So it saved a lot as far as diesel. And even man hours. If we couldn't get a tractor in there, we'd have a lot of people in the heat of the summer having to go out with hose to cut weeds. And that's not a fun job. So we've been able to eliminate all of that excess labor and diesel through these new traits that have helped us manage the crop better.
And I know one of the traits is insect resistance. Can you speak to one of the insects that maybe used to be a big problem here in Arizona and other parts of the country, but maybe today is not as big a problem?
No, that's correct. Yes, years ago, decades ago, pink bollworm devastated the cotton crop. And what the pink bollworm does is it eats its way into the boll and eats the seed, and then that boll won't open. So you essentially lose those bolls that are affected by pink bollworm. So years ago, they developed, it was a natural protein that they found that disrupted the digestive system of the pink bollworm. And this natural protein, they were able to develop in the plant. So the leaves and the bolls itself had this natural protein in it. So as that pink bollworm started eating the boll, it would ingest this protein and disrupt their digestive system. So today, pink bollworms essentially do not exist because of this technology, and has reduced our spraying for pink bollworm 100%. So we went from having to spray 10 to 14 times a season to 0. So just imagine all of the chemicals we've been able to not use because of this natural technology.
That's fascinating. I always love hearing that story about the pink bollworm and how that BT cotton, using that natural protein, has been one of the ways that they've been able to help eradicate it. Always fascinating. 10 to 14 to 0. That's amazing. Amazing. All right. Well, I think what we'll do now is we're going to go ahead and start a video that will show some picking. Lots of pickers in the field, kind of what you are out doing today. You are still live there, Mr. Hatley. So if you have anything to say while it's playing along, please feel free to do so.
All right. Thank you.
Can you give them an idea how much a piece of equipment like this might cost?
Yeah, so this is a John Deere picker, and this is one of the newer versions of the John Deere picker. And this one new is about $600,000. Now that is a lot of money, and this is not what I own. I own one of the older styles. But what's nice about this one is that it wraps the cotton inside. So as it's picking the cotton, it's wrapping it in a round bale, and when it comes out, it will already be covered with plastic to protect it from the weather. Where currently, my machines dump into a large module builder, and then we have to tarp those after we are done. And you'll see a picture of those later in the video related to the gym. So right now you see the picker going through the field, stripping the cotton off of the stalks. There you see them dumping one of the bales out the back, and they can continue to pick and producing another bale inside as it's dropping the finished one off at the end of the field.
We have a question here. What do you do with the leftover cotton? Because they noticed when it was being stripped off the plant, there was still a little bit of cotton left on. Do you go back over it again, or what do you do with that lint?
Yes, that's a very good question. And no matter how well you try to go through it the first time, there's always a little bit left over. And if there's enough left, we will go back and second pick and clean that up. Because what will happen is not only we leave something that's already open, but if there are any green bolts that are left behind, once you go through there, they may open after we have picked it, and then we can get that lint as well.
And I know, is it true that if you're in certain areas with certain soils, let's say Yuma maybe, some of that organic matter is actually nice to go back into their soils for as they get ready to do produce, because they have such sandy soils? I know they were mentioning that they will turn it underneath in their soils there.
Yeah, so all the cotton stalks you see left behind, we'll shred that, and we'll just turn it back into the soil, and it will break down and add biomass for the next year.
Excellent. Now in this video, we see lots of cotton pickers out there. I know this was a custom harvest crew there in Yuma. Is this what it's looking like where you are now? Do you have this many pickers in your fields, or is it you, or you and a friend, or how does that work?
Yeah, so this year I have 2 6-row machines, and the ones you see in the video are also 6-row machines. So when I started 30 years ago, I had 6 2-row machines, which is all that they had at the time, were 2 rows. And then so over time, then they developed a 4-row machine, and we bought some of those and ran those for a while until they came out with the 6-row machine, which is what we have now. So we have 2 9996 and a 9986 machine.
Now, do you have to drive these tractors, or are these the autonomous ones, or what kind of technology do you have inside that cab?
Yeah, these, we do have tractor drivers in these machines. So they have not developed self-driving cotton pickers at this point. So the technology we have is fairly simple. We do not have GPS on these, so it's just the instruments we need to turn the heads on. So each row has a head that is picking the cotton, and so we have 6 of those. Some cotton pickers, probably like the ones you see in the video, may have yield monitors in them. So as it's picking the cotton, it can tell you what your yield is. If you're picking 1,000 pounds per acre or 1,500 pounds per acre. So there is that technology available.
If it was a really good yielding year for cotton, how many pounds would you pick per acre?
Okay, so yes, let me touch on that. So probably a good average yield is 1,500 pounds of lint. So that's 1,500 pounds of lint that's already, after it's gone through the gin and the seed and the trash has been taken out, that's what you have left. And in the video you'll see later with the gin, you will see that process and how each bale is about 500-pound bale. So if we can get 3 bales per acre, that would be a good yield. So when you see the raw cotton as it's coming out of the picker, obviously that still has the seed and a lot of that trash in there. Once it's ginned, only about 36 to 40% of that cotton is lint, and the other 60% is seed and trash.
We have a good question here. How much can the cotton picker pick in an hour?
Okay. Wow. So our cotton pickers run about 3 to 3.5 miles per hour. With 2 of ours, we can probably do about 60 acres a day with 2 machines. So I can let you do the math, but we can cover some ground, and a lot of it depends on the yield. If we have a high yield, we may have to slow it down some, and the process of dumping into a module builder. But probably with 1 machine, you can do about 30 acres a day.
Okay. And are those like 10-hour days, or that'll help them with their math?
Yeah, so we're working 12 hours a day right now, but probably about 10 hours of picking time.
Okay. That'll help them with their math problem. I like how you set them up for that. Okay, so couple more questions. Excellent, guys. Keep sending in your questions because Mr. Hatley will only be with us for another 5 or 10 minutes. So when you were talking, when the cotton stalks, when you're done and they kind of get turned over and back into the soil, they want to know, how do you prevent the seeds that might be in the ground still from sprouting, growing back?
Yeah, no, that's a good question, because that's called volunteer cotton. So if there are seeds here and they come back next year, that's called volunteer, and we really don't want that. So there are going to be seeds that are plowed under, but through the process of tillage, and as we plow that ground and turn that ground under, if from the time we do the tillage work in December to the time in March, if we get rain during that time, that seed's going to break down and rot or germinate before we pull up rows and plant again. So I think the process of that 4-month period of time, that seed's going to degrade or break down or sprout and will not be there for the new season.
What is your crop rotation? What will go in your cotton fields when you're done?
Yeah, so I have a cotton and alfalfa rotation. We may have some fields in cotton for several years. If the price of wheat is good, then I would love to bring some wheat in and have a good rotation of wheat and cotton. The last few years, unfortunately, the price of grains have not been there, so I haven't planted any wheat. But typically it's a wheat and cotton rotation along with alfalfa.
And how many people do you have working on the farm with you?
Yeah, so right now I average about 15 employees year around. And so a lot of those employees are irrigators and tractor drivers. But once we shut the water off to dry the cotton down, we have those employees available to help with harvest. So during harvest, all of the employees are working to get this cotton out.
And so for during harvest, so you mentioned you have two 6-row pickers. So are some of the other individuals then they're working on the module builders because you don't have the round ones like these showed here. So do you do the conventional rectangle modules then?
That is right. So,
Okay.
so for these two cotton pickers, I do have 4 module builders that we're using to keep them going. So you are correct. So the rest of the employees are working on the module builders, picking up the cotton that's fallen on the ground, and watching the pickers.
And you mentioned water a couple of times, of course, through irrigation. How many times in a season might you have to water your cotton crop?
Yeah, early on, so we'll water it once to get it up, and then wait about 30 days for the next irrigation. And then after the second irrigation, wait about 21 days, because at this time it's in the spring, so it's still fairly cool. But once we get into June, July, and August, we narrow those intervals to about 10-day cycle of irrigation. And so by the time we're done with this crop, it's going to have about 8 irrigations on it.
And we have a good question here from a class that says, who do you sell your cotton to?
Okay, so I work with a co-op called Calcott, and Calcott takes in our cotton along with other growers' cotton bales, and then they market it. But 98% of the cotton in the United States is exported to countries like Taiwan, Indonesia, China, and then they bring it in, and then they turn it into the textiles, and then from there they ship the textiles out to other countries like the United States.
Awesome. We have another question. I think you've addressed it, but it's how do you water the cotton during a drought? You know, a lot of people think of Arizona and that we don't have a lot of water. Does that affect you and other farmers, or will you always have access to water?
Well, some parts of the state have better access to water than others. So where I'm at, I get my water out of the Salt River Project's reservoirs. So the lakes like Roosevelt Lake, Saguaro Lake, Canyon Lake, Apache Lake, all hold a lot of water. Their capacity is essentially full right now. So that's where we get our water, and it costs us money to irrigate. So we try to be as efficient as possible, so we're not just spending money for the sake of watering. So we try to be as efficient as we can be. But yes, we do have enough capacity in our water supply right now to irrigate. Now, other parts of the state, they may pump groundwater, and then they use different systems like a drip system, which is very efficient. And then some growers may use a sprinkler system, which also is a very efficient way of irrigating.
Excellent. So you told us the size of your farm, or how many acres you guys are going to be harvesting of cotton. The question here is, what would you say is the average size? And they're using the term commercial, so I hope you can sort of explain that a little bit, Mr. Hatley. But what are the sizes of the average commercial cotton fields? So maybe in Arizona, do you know what the average size of a farm is for cotton?
Yeah, that has changed a lot over the years. 15 or 20 years ago, Arizona probably grew over 200,000 acres of cotton. I think this year we're down to about 150 to 160,000 acres of cotton. And that number keeps dropping because we're losing ground every year to development, and then also on demand. So if the price of cotton is down, we may take some cotton fields and move them into alfalfa or wheat or another commodity that may be better for us. I would say, I'm growing 950 acres. I am probably about average So I would say probably about 1,000 acres. I know some farmers that may have 2,500 acres of cotton, but I also know some that just have 200 or 300 acres. So it varies considerably depending on the size of the farm and what other commodities they're growing.
And here in Arizona, do we have any commercial farms doing cotton, or is it our family farmers that are doing it?
All of the cotton farmers I know are family farms. I'm not aware of a commercial farm that's owned by a large corporation. So everybody I'm aware of are just family farmers that this is what they've been doing from one generation to the next, and hope they can continue to do it in the future.
And of course, I think that's, one of the misconceptions that's there, or is really just difficult for people to sort of look at and understand that, wow, a family can farm 2,000 acres. But a lot of that has to do because of the technology, but the technology for seed and also the equipment that you use, but also realizing that less than 2% of our population is farming today. So we are relying on you family farms to do more and more for us who are not producing for ourselves. So thank you, as always, for doing that.
And I'd also like to add on my farm that we also grow alfalfa, and I mentioned that, but we also grow organic leafy greens as well. So we try to be diversified and find other commodities that we can grow.
Excellent. Okay, I don't know if you're going to know the answer to this question, but I hope you do, because I'm very curious. How much do the cotton pickers weigh?
I don't know the answer to that, and I would just be guessing. I just would say I would not want to be underneath one.
We will definitely look that up. I know those tires alone are several hundred pounds. So yeah. I'm sure it's a lot, but we will look up that number and get that answer before we are done today. So that seems to do it for our cotton picking, cotton farmer questions at the moment, Adam. So thank you so much for your time. I know this is your busy season and you got to hop back out there. So appreciate your time and information today.
Thank you, Katie. I enjoyed it, and everybody enjoy the rest of the presentation, and good luck.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam.
Bye-bye.
All right, so now that we've learned a little bit about cotton picking, we're going to go ahead and find out where that cotton goes once it has left the farm. Adam referenced that he sells his cotton to a co-op called Calcott, but we are actually going to be following this cotton here to a co-op in Yuma, Arizona, Southern Arizona. That's called Yuko Gin, for Yuma County Gin. So Yuko Gin is where we're going to head. Unfortunately, we do not have David on live today. We went and met with him last week. Actually, yes, last week. Because this is their busy time, and you're going to find out just how busy they are as he shares with you information about what happens to the cotton once it leaves. If you have questions as the video is playing, please feel free to put those in the chat box, because we can address all of those questions for you. So here we go.
I'm the general manager and vice president of Yuko Gin here. What that means is I get to do it all, whether it's electrical, ginning of cotton, running equipment, and selling seed and shipping lint. So here at the gin, we run 24 hours a day, 6 days a week. We start running our gin at the tail end of August, and we run it till about the middle of January, depending on acres and how the yield is this year.
All kinds of stuff.
Well, those are cotton bales that are arriving from the farm. And these are the ones like you saw in the video that we played. And in just a couple moments, you'll see the ones from Adam.
So right here in front of me is the nowadays round module. Now, 8 years ago, John Deere came out with the new round picker, which this creates a module in the picker itself. And as you can see, it takes 4 of these rounds to make a complete module. Each one of these rounds weighs about 5,000 pounds. Altogether is a 20,000 pound module. It takes about 1,400 pounds of seed cotton, which hasn't been ginned yet, as you can tell. There's still seed, trash, leaves, burrs in it. About 1,400 pounds of seed cotton to make one 500-pound bale of lint. Back in the day, we still use old conventional pickers. They make a conventional square module, and we can only haul those in our module trucks. One of the great things about having round modules nowadays from John Deere is that we can put these on hay trailers and haul 2 at a time instead of 1 at a time. And we're able to get cotton from all over, from different counties, and still price match it to where we can gin a lot more cotton and be price effective. As you can see behind me, all of these tarps, these are for our conventional modules. As you can see, the different colors, depending on the color, is who the grower is. After we take it off their module to be ginned, we wrap it up so he can reuse it, take it back to the field, and cover another module.
So that's one of the conventional modules that's being broken down. And that module right there weighs 20,000 pounds, and it will take 24 minutes for it to be broken down.
Here's 2 sets of tower dryers. What's happening here is we are taking all the moisture out of the cotton so it's easier to clean and gin. It starts at the top and works its way down the tower dryer through a number of tables, and it's heated with flame. So after running the cotton through the stick machines and incline, it goes through one more set of tower dryers before we gin the cotton. So this is the lint after it's been through the lint cleaner, through the battery condenser. Now it's going down into the lint slide to be pressed into a bale.
On the right-hand side, you can see the bale pressed. We have a bale that's about to come out. These bales are 500 pounds of cotton. We'll find those bales that Adam talked about that is most
what they call a UD bale, which is every gin across the United States has the same dimensional, same weight bale. After it gets put in our bale yard, we then load it on a semi, and it goes to storage or to port to be shipped overseas. And when it goes to a warehouse, it sits and waits until it's sold.
All right, so that's our co-op. Now, I had a question earlier, and that was, well, what do we get from the cotton? What is it that a bale produces for us? So as you guys look at this screen, you might notice some of the things that you come in contact with. Hopefully you're coming in contact with those $100 bills every day, right? But from one bale of cotton, so that's 500 pounds, you can produce over 3,000 baby diapers. From one bale of cotton, if you don't need diapers, maybe you need shirts, you can produce just over 1,200 t-shirts from one 500-pound bale of cotton. Probably a favorite of mine is blue jeans, and you can make 215 pairs of blue jeans from one 500-pound bale of cotton. You can also make 249 sets of bed sheets. So that's the fitted sheet, the top sheet, and your 2 pillowcases. And then, of course, everybody's favorite, one that I don't think a lot of people recognize, is you can get 313,600 $100 bills made from a 500-pound bale of cotton. Now, I know when most people think of money, they think of paper. But the reality is our paper money today is actually 75% cotton and 25% linen. Because of those stronger fibers of the cotton, they hold that soy ink so it doesn't wash off if it goes through the washing machine or gets wet. And that's also why your bills don't disintegrate or tear into a lot of pieces if they happen to be left in your pocket and go through the washing machine and the dryer. Whereas a piece of paper is going to shred apart and lint. And it's just because the fibers are not quite as strong as from cotton. And that's why they use cotton for our money today. To circle back around to one of the questions that was asked earlier, in case you didn't see it in the chat box, the question was, how much do those cotton pickers weigh? Well, we looked it up, and a John Deere cotton picker weighs about 49,000 pounds. So as Mr. Hatley said, you definitely do not want to be caught underneath one of them. Very important. All right, so we're going to leave the chat box open for a handful of more minutes in case you guys have some questions coming through. Hopefully you learned a little bit about cotton today, had some of those questions answered. If you still have questions about Arizona cotton, of course, you can always reach out to us here at the Arizona Farm Bureau. If you're an elementary school classroom, we have lots of resources that you can bring into your classroom to help you continue to learn about one of Arizona's 5 C's, which of course is cotton. And that is through our commodity curriculum kits. You can actually check this out. You'll get cotton bowls to hand gin in your classroom and to really learn a little bit more hands-on about our cotton industry here in Arizona. If you don't have the opportunity to check out one of our free curriculum kits, maybe you want to pop online and visit our Bitmoji classroom that's on the Arizona 5 C's. There'll be lots of videos, online story times regarding cotton, and of course, some online lessons as well. So we hope you guys enjoyed your time today. We enjoyed our time with you. We hope to see you next month. Next month, we're actually going to be finding our way back to Yuma, Arizona, where we are going to learn a little bit about the winter lettuce capital of the world. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day. Thanks.